What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for February 8th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the podcast. One more sleep from Super Bowl Sunday. We are so close, yet so far away. Quick programming note before we get into today's episode. Tomorrow, obviously, is going to be a big show. Going to be a lot of Super Bowl coverage. Might be a little bit longer of a podcast than what we normally do. But hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday. You got to get it all in. So just kind of more of a heads up. Still be more on a weekend schedule. But might be a tad bit longer than the 15 to 25 minutes we normally do. Might be closer to the 35, 40. But just wanted to give a heads up for that. Some housekeeping notes. Still not too late to celebrate the Super Bowl by buying Girl Scout cookies from Ella. Everything you need is in the description. And then squares are selling fast for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame Super Bowl block pool. That is the very first thing in the description. So get in now. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't be that guy that gets shut out, or girl who gets shut out of the Super Bowl block pool. Get them today while you're sitting at basketball, swimming, or whatever sport you got going on today. Everything's in the description. All proceeds benefit the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at PhillyJimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word as we outsmart the algorithm. I've been putting the shorts of the question of the day on YouTube as well, trying to just get the word out there. As I mentioned yesterday, somebody out there is listening. A lot of people at WIP seem to be listening to this podcast. Again, just give me a shout out. And then, like I said, spread the word. The best way to do this is through word of mouth. So just let somebody else know. It's a good time to get in with the Super Bowl tomorrow. And then check out our friends over at the On Pattison newsletter. Great Philly sports coverage delivered right to your inbox. Every day, Monday through Friday, we're featured in there a couple times a week. So go support them. Like I said, it's actually very good content as well. So that's the On Pattison newsletter. All right, Sixers game yesterday. Wow. Not even sure where to begin with that. They got boat raced, basically. They did battle back, but crumbled near the end. Typically that happens when a team battles back. They were down 30 points at one point, 30 plus points at some point in this game. Just absolutely boat race. The Pistons could not miss early, and not what you expected with our big three of Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey all playing at the same time. There was an incident on the sideline at one point when they were in the middle of that comeback. And so it was between Joe and Kelly Oubre, and Joe was not happy with Kelly Oubre's lack of, I don't want to say hustle, but I guess lack of hustle. He ran back down the court after a turnover with his head down, kind of jogged, gave up an easy layup. And Joe called him out on the sideline for it. They got a little bit heated. They did hug it out. Joe actually mimicked what he did. I like this. It's the first time, I think, since Joe's been here that he's actually showed some type of true leadership. Maybe his methods weren't what I mean. On the sideline, you're kind of calling your player out in front of everybody on TV and in the stands. But the message was very appropriate. The message appeared to be, after they kind of worked it out, seemed to be well taken by Kelly Oubre. And like I said, this is the first time, I think, since Joe's been here that he showed any type of leadership like that on a sideline. Usually he'd be on the bench pouting. Usually he'd just be ignoring it, whatever. So the fact that he's actually taken the initiative to call him out for a lack of hustle play, I like it. Now, that does sort of come with it some pressure now on Joe, because now that, and I can't take 100% credit for this take. I did see it on the post-game show from Mark Jackson, but I like the way he went with this because he said now he put that on himself. He can't slack off. He needs to hustle now. He's got to be willing to play as much as possible and give 100% on the court now that he publicly made that clear. So maybe it's one of those moments, and I might be grasping for anything possible here, but it might be one of those moments that galvanize this team and brings them together. It certainly now puts Joe right in the crosshairs. You can't slip up now. You can't loaf around. You can't have your own lack of hustle plays. Not that he does, but I really, like I said, this was a great moment I felt in a game that they got absolutely destroyed in. But Joe stepping up, I mean, it's a shame that it's come now and not years earlier. But maybe it's one of those moments that brings this team together, and maybe not for this year, but moving forward, Joe really steps up as the leader of the team. They will be in Milwaukee tomorrow to take on the Bucks. I don't know, excuse me, if anyone in the Philadelphia area will be watching the Sixers game tomorrow, but they are in action. Flyers in action tonight at the Wells Fargo Center against the arch rival from across the state, the Penguins, looking to carry some of that momentum they got against the Capitals. For the most part, they played well, just had their little league period, but that is tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. Be sure to check out my friends over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things going on with their sports fan network, whether you like college, NFL, just getting together and bantering with friends. Go check them out. There's plenty of information on their site. That's available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then go to Philly Goat. I mean, Brian and the team over there have been pumping out shirts these past 2 weeks like it's their job. They had the Birds by a Billion. There's the, obviously, they already had the Saquon Tecmo Bowl touchdown shirts. There's a Tush Push, if you remember Tecmo Bowl, where you had the 8 plays you could choose from, or 4 plays. They have a Tush Push play, and it's slowly becoming my new favorite shirt. I cannot wait to order this one, but go check it out. Be sure to go through their whole site. They have a ton of just amazing shirts. So go to Philly Goat today while you're passing time waiting for the Super Bowl. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery, all one word, for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, I mentioned the one more sleep before the Eagles. I'm kind of working through the 3 keys. We might have a little slight remix to the 3 keys tomorrow. It might be 5 keys. I don't know. I can't decide which, so we might just put them all in there. It's the Super Bowl, last game of the season. Can't hold anything back. But let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, should the Eagles retire Eric Allen's number 21? A little bit surprised at this. 70% said yes, but I'd be willing to bet that the 30% that said no likely are younger and did not get to see Eric Allen play and just realize how amazing he was. I was in a Twitter conversation with some people last night, and I think what kind of held Eric Allen back for all these years is the fact that he was on a team for a few years in his career with Reggie White, Jerome Brown, and Clyde Simmons, also with Seth Joyner, Andre Waters. I mean, you had some very, very good players on that defense, and I think Eric might have gotten overshadowed because he wasn't the outspoken one of that team. And truthfully, I think that holds Seth Joyner back too. I think the fact that that team was Reggie, Jerome, Clyde, and even to a certain extent Mike Pitts and Mike Golick, that line was the star of that team. So I think guys like Eric Allen, guys like Seth Joyner, got a little overshadowed by that. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. Eagles do play the Raiders at home next year. It would be the perfect time for them to retire the number. They do that a lot with players. Donovan's was retired when Andy Reid came back. And since Eric Allen played a number of years with the Raiders as well, it would be a perfect opportunity to put the number 21 up there with the rest of the greats. Just a PSA, if you haven't seen it, I think the No Bull is the company. There's a commercial for, I guess, the Super Bowl with Tom Brady and Nick Foles. Hilarious. Go check it out. So a lot of talk is like there's still people saying Jalen can't do this. A guy was in another Twitter conversation about this. And there's just so much that I just don't get, I just don't understand, and probably won't ever understand. But it's things like this, and I've talked so much this week about the calluses that this team has. They've been through so much, and the fact of the matter is, if this is a close game, like everybody is thinking and saying it will be, they're fully prepared for that. And they have had tough conversations with each other. They're not afraid to put it all out there, move past it, and it makes them better. So I think I'm not concerned about being in a close game with the Chiefs. I know that's a concern. Everybody's like, oh, we got to be up. But I think they are built for that. So obviously we'll see when it comes game time tomorrow. But I just need to get to game time. And then the sweet moment of the day, you got to listen to Saquon's daughter's voicemail that she left him, that she basically said, we're proud of you, and no matter what, win or lose, we'll always love you. And if that doesn't tug at your heartstrings and make you want the Eagles to win that much more, you need to check your pulse. But I thought that was, and especially as a girl dad, I think that was an amazing, amazing thing. Injury-wise, it seems like they're pretty healthy, all things considered. I like the fact that the guys on injured reserve, like Nakobe Dean, they have been down there. They've been at practice. This team is locked in. There's no other way to put it. The team is locked in, and I cannot wait. One more sleep. I did want to mention, because there was also, after the Hall of Fame announcements, and mostly Giants fans, but a lot of folks saying that Eli Manning got snubbed from the Hall of Fame. And I wanted to give my 2 cents on this because it's not a snub. And will Eli Manning get into the Hall of Fame at one point? Probably. I mean, if you do look at his numbers, he's like top 10, top 15 in a lot of the major categories all time. That's mainly because he played for quite a number of years. But even more impressive with Eli is that he never got hurt. Like, he never missed a game because of injury. Like, he had the streak of consecutive starts and all that. But is he a Hall of Famer? And I think it's a compelling argument because people will look and say, well, he won 2 Super Bowls. Okay. I don't think that's an automatic qualifier for the Hall of Fame. He did produce a lot of numbers, and his numbers were solid. Like, he threw a lot of interceptions. The thing with me for Eli, to me, the Hall of Fame is for the greatest players to ever play the game. And if you look at the eye test, Eli Manning is not one of the greatest to ever play the game. I think Eli Manning falls right now in the same category as we're going on with Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and even Bobby Abreu to a certain extent. It's the Hall of very good, but I don't know if Eli is one of the all-time greats. I think eventually he likely will get in, but to say he got snubbed, to me, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. First ballot means you were the greatest player of your era, or one of the top 3, top 5 greatest players of your era. Eli Manning was not one of even the top 10 quarterbacks of his era, I feel. I think if you look at take numbers aside, and I know Hall of Fame is a lot about numbers, but you could make a very good argument that Donovan McNabb was a better quarterback during that era than Eli Manning. Yes, Eli has the 2 Super Bowls and everything. So I don't think he got snubbed. I think he's certainly not a first ballot. If Peyton Manning didn't get in on the first ballot, that's a snub. Eli Manning, no. I think eventually he will get in, but he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he shouldn't have been in this time. I think the committee got it right with the guys they're putting in. I mean, seriously, look at Eric Allen. Should have been in years ago. But just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. But let me know your thoughts on that. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Should he be first ballot? I don't think he should even have been considered close to a first ballot Hall of Famer. The other snub everybody was talking about, and I don't think this was a snub, but that's going to be today's question of the day. Lots of folks thinking that Quinyon Mitchell got snubbed from being Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and went to Jarrett Verse of the Rams. And I think Verse had a hell of a season, and this is not taking anything from Quinyon, but I think they got it right. But what do you think? Should Quinyon have won the Defensive Rookie of the Year? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Again, nothing against Quinyon, but Jarrett Verse had a hell of a season, and I think, again, the voters got it right. But let me know your thoughts on that. Was Quinyon snubbed for Defensive Rookie of the Year? All right. Today, February 8th, was a good day for the number 1 in Philadelphia sports history. First, we're going to go back to 1988. And for the first time on this day in 1988, the first time in Big 5 history, a city team was ranked number 1 in the college basketball polls. The Temple Owls, who were 18-1 at the time, jumped from number 5 to number 1 in the AP poll when all 4 teams ahead of them lost that week. They became the 5th team that year to be ranked number 1. And to their credit, they held on number 1 the rest of the way throughout the rest of the season. The first game they played was probably their toughest one against Villanova at McGonigal Hall. Temple pulled away late in that one. They went down to UNC and beat North Carolina, rolled through the Atlantic 10 tournament, made it all the way to the Elite 8 before losing to Duke by 10 in a game where all of a sudden, as usually with John Chaney's team, when the shooting went cold, they struggled against some of the better, bigger teams in the country. But this 1987-88 team was probably John Chaney's best team on North Broad. And on this day, back in 1988, they became the first team in Big 5 history to be ranked number 1 in the AP poll. And they played it out the rest of the year. They were the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. Rolled their way to the Elite 8 before losing to Coach K's Duke Blue Devils. God, I hate Coach K. And then, of course, in 2018, it was the Eagles Super Bowl parade. On this day, we said that the win at Super Bowl 52 was the greatest moment in Eagles history. The Super Bowl parade was probably the funnest. One of the best experiences of my Eagles fandom. It was amazing. I loved it. And I was watching some videos of it from my time hop today, and it just was incredible. So on this day in 1988, the Temple Owls became the number 1 ranked team in the country. And then in 2018, we all celebrated on Broad Street and the Ben Franklin Parkway as the Eagles were finally the Super Bowl champions. Finally today, we're going to end with our Black History Legacy Maker with Philadelphia ties. And today we're spotlighting Irv Cross. And Irv was a 2-time Pro Bowl cornerback for the Eagles from 1961 to 1965. Came back in 1969, 16 career interceptions and a touchdown with the Eagles. And while he was playing, I thought this was interesting. He did radio spots for WIGP, which he did drive time sports hits while he was an active member of the Eagles. He also did the weekend sports on KYW TV. After his retirement in 1971, he joined CBS as an analyst and a commentator for NFL. And then he was the first African-American to be an analyst for a national television broadcast. From there, he moved in and co-hosted, and this is where I knew him from, co-hosted the NFL Today, which was the pregame show on CBS. Back then, CBS had the NFC games. And really, the NFL Today became the model for all future pregame programs. And I thought this was interesting because back then, it was more the pregame show was just like boom, 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 here we go. And the postgame show was really where everybody wanted to watch because they would get the highlights. But the NFL Today kind of flipped that where they were previewing the games, talking about things. They did the feature hits. And really, any pregame show you watch today traces its roots back to the NFL Today. He became the first African-American to co-anchor a network sports show. He stayed there all the way through 1989 when they made some changes there at CBS, returned to be a game analyst. And again, this is where I remember him. I remember him sitting next to Brett Musburger in the studio. I remember him being the color commentator for some Eagles games. And he also did basketball, track, and gymnastics for CBS. After he left CBS and got out of broadcasting, he became the athletic director at Idaho State and Macalester College. In 2009, he was the Pete Rozelle Radio Television Award winner, and that is awarded by the Hall of Fame. First African-American to win that award. He's been heavily involved in Minnesota with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Minnesota. He was the CEO for them for quite a few years, but just a real trailblazer, trendsetter, the first African-American to be an analyst and a commentator on national TV, the first to co-host a national network sports show, just really blazing the trail for everybody to come after him. Really made the transition nice from playing, and he was a pretty decent player to boot as well. So Irv Cross is today's Black History legacy maker with Philly ties. Like I said, one of those guys I remember watching as a kid. Really knew his stuff, and it wasn't until I never realized he played for the Eagles, and then once I found out he had played for the Eagles, that was it for me. I'm like, I'm in. So one of my favorites growing up. But Irv Cross, today we salute you. On this day in 1988, John Chaney's Temple Owls became ranked number one in the AP poll. First time a team in Philadelphia ever made it to number one, and they held on to it for quite a long time, taking it all the way to the final end of the tournament when they lost in the Elite Eight at Duke. And then, of course, in 2018, it was the Eagles Super Bowl parade. Don't want to jinx anything, but would love to have that experience one more time in a few days. Let me know your thoughts on Quinyon. Was he snubbed as Defensive Rookie of the Year? I don't think so. It wouldn't have surprised me if he won it. I think you would have had more people saying that Jarrett Verse was snubbed, but I'm okay with it. But let me know your thoughts on that. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. The next time I see you will be the Super Bowl preview show. We will have our 3, maybe 5, who knows. We're throwing everything out the window. Keys to an Eagles victory tomorrow. We will preview the game, have a couple things kind of lined up that are part just getting some stuff off of my chest, part superstition, all of that. One more sleep until Super Bowl 59. Today, I know I said Thursday was going to be the longest day. Today is going to be tough. Today is going to be tough, but Eagle Nation, we got this. Let's hang in there. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for February 8th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.